YouTube's full of videos about challenges about how many minis you can paint in how short a period of time. This is one of these videos. However, I know you may be bored of these things. You may be thinking, oh god, not another one. But let me tempt you with this. The entire army looks like Xenomorphs from Aliens. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Elston. Welcome to my channel, Elstonation. I'm a child of the 80s. I was brought up on movies like this.
I'll be back.
Like this.
Come quietly or there will be trouble.
And like this. Being a child of the 80s and watching movies I should definitely not have been watching, thanks for the nightmares, It was an action-packed time. Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, Jean-Claude Van Damme were the kings of action movies, and mass murder was a commonplace in many a movie.
Guns.
I would love to go on a tangent about all the wonderful things in the 80s, but I need to keep on course with this one. All of these movies formed a generation of children with imaginations that were frankly out of control. One of the movies that contributed towards this was the film Alien. Now before we go really down the rabbit hole here, don't worry, there is wargaming in this video, I just need to tell you this story first. An enrapturing sci-fi movie that sparked off an entire culture that would last decades, generating multiple movies and crossover into multiple media industries. Alien was the first in a long series of movies that bred a new type of fear that would lurk in the dark. Many would claim Alien was the best movie out of this franchise. However, I have to disagree. The sequel to Alien, with the truly imaginative title Aliens, was my favourite movie out of the franchise. This is the point in the video where I give you the permission to put your opinions in the comments below. You can tell me if I'm right or wrong. Anyway, if any of you say AVP, we've got some issues. At the time, this movie had the height of special effects, like this. Like this. And like this. These iconic terrors I'm sure had an influence on the faction we're going to have a look at today. The Tyranids! Let's outline the challenge then, shall we? Towards the end of 2021, I want to finish off my year of maniacal painting with a bang. So I thought I would try and create and finish off my first love of a 40k army, the Tyranids. The Nids were my first and most impressive army to date. Unfortunately, I had it in the era where phones didn't have cameras in them, so I can't show you any pictures. However, I wanted to rekindle my love for them by giving them a new revamped update. I had expressed my interest to my friends about doing my Nid army, and they graciously gave me their leftover Nid piles. Unfortunately, some of these had seen much better days. I wanted to breathe a fresh breath of life into these models, a bit like eBay miniature rescues, however more like here's my leftover junk rescue. The problem was I wanted my Tyranid army to be unique. I wanted them to be as scary as how scary I remember those aliens being in the Aliens movie that I was watching as a child that I shouldn't have been watching as a child. When looking for inspiration for a new army, I usually turn to one of two sources, nature or sci-fi fantasy references. I really wanted something iconic or at least something terrifying that would stand out on the tabletop. After looking around, I arrived at what I considered to be one of the source materials for the Tyranids, H.R. Giger's Xenomorph. The problem was how to make them look like Xenomorphs without having to hand sculpt the Xenomorph heads. This is where 3D printing comes to the rescue and allowed me to create my dream nightmare army. More on how I converted these later. Quite regularly when I start a project like this, I don't really know what I'm doing and I just kind of wing it the whole time. Usually, I'm balls deep into just trying it out and seeing where I get to. But I had a deadline. I had 9 days. So, I really needed to get this right. So I did some test models for once. Yay me! Now the choice was, how was I going to paint these? Now this was the point where I honestly didn't know what to do. I've done a Xenomorph painting tutorial up there somewhere, but that was a long time ago, and I really didn't want to go through the efforts that I had to do with that. It involved multiple steps over multiple layers, but there was just one too many steps in that. And also, I didn't want the same effect again. I wanted something new, and I wanted them to stand out. And each step is going to have hundreds of replications. There's 394 models in this army, so we need to find a way to speed this along. We're going to take as many shortcuts as possible. So I had a look around and I came across these. These are the Green Stuff World Color Shift paints. I thought, why not have my entire army reflective? Now, I didn't know what the color shift term was. I didn't know much about it. I just thought, ooh, my army could be two colors at once, depending on how you look at them. I thought that would be quite cool. And also reminiscent of insects. Doing a little bit of research, this is called ChromaFlair. Now, if you're not aware of what ChromaFlair is, I'll put a link to an article, the Wikipedia, where I found out about this. What this basically is aluminium. That's right, Americans, aluminium is how we pronounce it over here. And I know we say it weird, because it's a hell of a lot harder to say than aluminum. I wish we said aluminum. But we don't, we say aluminium. Aluminium. Anyway, it's aluminium with glass suspended in a translucent chromium medium. The aluminium and the chrome give off the sparkle effect, whereas the glass acts like a refracting prism and changes the color depending on the position of the observer. Now, all of those things I have said that are in this paint are not good for your body. So here's a health and safety warning, God. Oh, I can't stress this one enough. This has got some nasty stuff in it. Don't inhale this. Wear a goddamn respirator. Please, God, wear a respirator. When I was airbrushing with this, the amount of residue that was coming off was unreal. My shelves have got a layer of coating on them, which literally just came from this one session, and this is nasty stuff. So, health and safety, if you're gonna be using this stuff through an airbrush, please, God, wear the correct safety equipment, because this is not going to be nice stuff to breathe in.
Hello, Mr. White. You really adopted the dark. I was bored at it.
I got them to the stage where I think I was happy with them. Now, the end result was not exactly the same. I did tweak it slightly as I was going along. It added an extra step. Now, I know an extra step is another day's worth of work, but I think it was worth it. When I did the test models, I did 3 different models. I did a Tyranid Warrior, a Gaunt, and Gene Stealer. Needless to say, the Tyranid Warrior and the Gene Stealer, I both changed the colours up on them anyway. And I changed the colour scheme for the Termagant, so the test scheme was kind of redundant. Anyway, we need to prep all these models first. All the models got based. That was a task in its own right. All the models got converted. That happened over months. Then I need to prime all of them. I was told that ChromaFlair works best over a gloss black primer. I had some of that from Vallejo, I had a little pot of it, so I'll see how far this goes. It didn't go that far, I used all of it up pretty quickly, so I had to stop. That made me twitchy, so I went into Halford's, got 3 cans, and I thought this should be enough. Luckily, it only took me 1.5 cans, so that was good. I decided to use the GW spray stick to see if I would speed this along a little bit. I don't know if it would have been quicker just sticking them to a stick or not, but it has some uses, I guess. Anyway, at least using a spray can sped things along a lot, and within a day, everything was done. My room was filled with a potent smell after spraying all of those, so I had to leave it for a little bit to fumigate the room and let it breathe again. Once all the models were done, we had to get moving. This is where it comes along to the painting side of things. Now, I had hundreds of Tyranid models to paint in a very short period of time. 394 to be precise, and I had approximately 9 days. So, speed painting monster, I choose you! That's a weird Pokemon reference, but no, Pokemon's called Speed Monster. So with the process, I had 120 odd Termagants, 60 odd Hormigants, 120 Gene Stealers, and then all the monsters to go with that. So we need to come up with a process for this to work. We've got a lot to paint, so I started off with the Termagants. Start off, Cobalt Blue, all the Gaunts, let's go!
Alright, sweethearts, you heard the man and you know the drill, assholes and elbows!
With big processes like this, it's good to get some kind of entertainment to keep you on because you're going to be at a while. Music, audiobooks, podcasts, something like that. Something relaxing as well. You need to pace yourself. This is about endurance painting. Speed painting and endurance painting, they get mixed up. This is what I call endurance painting because we're actually painting for long periods of time. So we did the Gaunts, the Termagants, and the Hormigants. We used Cobalt Blue over the gloss black primer, then dry brush them. When it came to dry brushing the silver though, I found I didn't want it to be everywhere. Our weirdly flaccid phallic-like heads of the Xenomorphs, I didn't want silver to be over them, I wanted the blue to stay there. So when I was dry brushing them, a quick wipe with the thumb over the top of the head part, where the flaccid phallic side of it was, left all the blue there, and it also left all the silver in all the detailed areas. So that's where we wanted to leave that so that when the candy black goes down, it would seek into all the crevices. Then we do a candy black over the top. These three combined gave me pretty much everything I need. In my mind, this was a massively quick win, and they looked awesome. 3 colors down, done. At that point, I also base coated what I also had left as well. So the Gene Stealers also got their base coats, and then all the monsters got their base coats as well. I didn't want the army to be completely uniform, so I used different contrast colors to differentiate the different parts of the army. So for example, all the Gaunts got Cobalt Blue, and all the Rippers got that as well. All the Flyers, they got all the messed up Cobalt Blue. Let's talk about this. With these color shift paints, like many other companies, this company is not perfect, and I got a pot of what I can only consider as faulty color shift paint. It didn't do exactly the same tone as the others. However, if you get lemons, make some kind of lemon juice drink that is edible. I decided to use this color on all the Flyers. It came out a more muted blue. It was less shiny and less reflective. I'm guessing it had less glass elements in it, but I decided to use this to denote all the Flyers, and it worked just about perfectly. I managed to get all the Flyers done with this color. Here's what a normal one looks like, and here's what the muted one looks like next to each other. As you can see, there's a slight bit of difference there, so hey, why not? There's not that many Flyers in it, so one pot will go far enough for this. All the Gene Stealers had chameleon green, and all the big monster guys and all the mid-range guys got Darth Blue, which is now my new favorite color. Oh my god, whoever decided to put red and blue in the same color, genius. I know that usually makes purple. In this instance, it's red and blue. Such a nice color. Cannot get over how nice that is. Believe it or not, I didn't finish off all the models before I started painting. A lot of the big monsters didn't actually get finished sculpting until midway through all the painting process. The conversions for this army literally took me months. I've been prepping this army for months beforehand. So the painting aspect is the shortest aspect of this. I know sometimes that's actually the opposite, and the building is usually the quickest part, and the painting takes longer. In this essence, the painting was the shortest part of this. The Xenomorph heads were from a company called Papsicle Miniatures. And for the models where the head didn't come as a separate piece, I had to use Mesh Mixer to slice off the heads, just so I can print them separately. For the smaller models, it was a case of just printing the heads at different sizes until I found the right size that matched the Gaunts or the Gene Stealers that I wanted. And after that point, it was just a case of printing hundreds of tiny little heads. For the larger models, I didn't want to just use the same head but scaled up. I thought that would be a bit too dull. So I opted for taking some of the other heads, so like the Queen head, the Bruiser or Crusher head, and lots of different ones, and scaling them up to a larger size. I think it would have been a missed opportunity if I hadn't have done this, because just doing the same head over and over again would have kind of looked cool, but at the same time, they're all different species, so they should in theory all have different kinds of morphs and heads and all kinds of different stuff going on. When looking at converting the heads, I realised that the detail in the Games Workshop kits versus these 3D prints didn't quite match up with each other. The lower jaws of the GW kit seemed more defined and more bold, whereas the top halves seemed duller compared to the 3D prints. The 3D prints had a uniqueness and that HR Geiger sense. So what did I do? I cut them in half. I took the lower jaws of the GW kits and we kept them, and we get rid of the tops, and then we cut off the lower jaws off the 3D printed heads and we got rid of them, and we kept the top half, and then we mushed them together and we've got our monsters. However, they didn't fit completely flush with each other, so we used our good old friend green stuff, and we made some green stuff tentacles using the green stuff roller from Green Stuff World. And I don't know how many times I can say green stuff, but here's one more: green stuff. The sculpting process basically involved laying over green stuff, sausages, cables, tubes, whatever, over each other, and then tucking them into certain orifices. Do this enough times and you start replicating the HR Geiger aesthetic. This tied in quite nicely, and the two kits became one. Homogants, termagants, done. As I said, needed a bit of a quick win next, so I did the basing. This is an odd time to do basing, and we're going to use Geek Gaming Scenics here to come to the rescue. I needed all of these models to be based. At this point in time, it seemed like, in theory, I didn't need to spray anymore, so I could get away with basing them. It was a special moment. I told my partner I was doing this. It was over the Christmas period, and I said, could you help? So all those people who were going to go, actually, you didn't do this on your own. I don't care. I had a very, very cool moment where a couple of hours, me and my partner did some basing, and we listened to some chilled out tunes, and it was a wonderful time. I don't have any footage of this because she doesn't want to be on the internet, so I respect her wishes. I had to mention it because it was such a special moment for me. 400 plus models. I'm going to accept 2 hours worth of help from a very special person. Who wouldn't? And done. Termagants, Hormagants, Gene Stealers, done. I say Gene Stealers done. I was wrong, because I'm just wired wrong in the head. I decided Gene Stealers, I didn't really like it just being green, so I decided to dilute the Darth Blue and paint that all over the bodies and the heads of the Gene Stealers, which added another step into it. When you've got 120 Gene Stealers, another step is another day. So for some reason, I decided to do that. Onto the monsters. With the monsters themselves, with some of them, I wanted to try and get a slightly different effect. So I started mucking around with some of the other colour shift paints, stippling them onto the carapaces to see if I could get some kind of a different effect. Long story short, I think the Darth Blue might just be enough. Then I came in with some Rakarth flesh to highlight all the muscle limbs or skeletal structures which I didn't want to be a shiny carapace. And then they were done. And then I decided to torture myself. I didn't like the way the army was looking. So I decided to paint all the claws green.
What the hell are you doing?
Why? And also all the tiny little weird veiny vent parts on their arms green. I got out my airbrush and my paintbrush, and I decided to try and paint all the claws green to give an accent colour. stress how much this hurt me. This had an extra 2 days. Extra 2 days. In all honesty, it was worth it. This army looked awesome now. But oh my god, did that hurt. During each of these steps, it was a case of trying to get them off the desk and out of the way so that I could say one section was done and move on to the next. With such a large army like this, it's actually quite difficult to store it, and you need to keep visual track of where everything is, because if you don't, you're going to lose it and you're not going to paint it. We were getting close to being finished. I decided to highlight more of the flesh colours as well, like on the biovores and the pyrovores, and then I decided to wash them, and then I decided to highlight them. And I keep on torturing myself, however, I felt they all needed it. Now, after putting myself through a barrage of painting colour shift paints, dry brushing, then candy blacks, then putting a green over the top, and then putting contrast tesseract glow into all those tiny little things, I got to do the wondrous thing. Now, I did this at different stages throughout the process. Again, you want to give yourself quick wins in big projects like this. I got to paint the rim of the bases. Do you know how satisfying it is to paint 120 base rims in one sitting? Oh dear. So good. So good. And then you get to do it again, and again, and again, and then you get really tired of doing it. But after doing all of that, going through all of that palaver, getting through all of that stuff, 9 days later, we're done. New Year's Eve, about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, I called it done. 394 models, 9 days. It's a new record for me. It's an amazing army. I'm super happy with it. I don't need to collect any more for it, whether I'm gonna. The wonderful thing about it, it's given me a dream army in a very short period of time. Would I recommend doing it? Hell no. Hell no. For a lot of it, it was not fun. However, I can say it's done. And my to-do list is nearly 400 models smaller than it was before. It's a new army. I will point out a couple of things. When you're doing this, please, please, please look after yourself. Health and safety is paramount when you're doing stuff like this. You can very, very easily damage yourself. See this chair that's going on here? See this cushion that's going on here? There's another one that sits down here in my lower back. Without this, I wouldn't have been able to do this. This has saved my back from becoming completely crippled. In fact, this saves my back on a daily basis. But small things like that will help you out monumentally. Make your life easier. Look after yourselves. That's the most important thing. If you're gonna do stuff like this, just look after yourself. So you can't actually me, because I've actually you'd. Actually you'd? I've actually'd you. And this is the point where I'm gonna love you and I'm gonna leave you. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Oh, it was a journey and a half, but it's done. And after this we can move on to the next project. And if you thought this was big, there's something bigger coming. I'll leave you in suspense with that. Hit some glamour shots, be good to yourselves, love each other, and I'll see you next time, whenever that is. See ya, bye. Yeah. The chrome and the aluminium. The aluminium. Oh, tasty. Audiobooks, music, podcasts. That's a weird way of doing your hands.